And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ISRL Esports live coverage of the Division 1 World Championship. My name is ISRL X. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. I am glad to be back. Hopefully no technical difficulties here today. And we're here at the Silverstone track, the Silverstone circuit, I may correct myself, for the British Grand Prix. Just getting ready for the first session of qualifying Q1 in just a few moments' time. Of course, as always, my co-commentator in the booth today is Fallen Monkeys. Fallen, great to be with you, and let's get ready for round number 8 of the Division 1 Championship. We're here at Silverstone. It's always a exciting race here at the British Grand Prix, and I expect nothing less as we get ready for Q1.
It's great to be back. Thanks for having me back in the commentators booth. And Ixu said it best. I'm extremely excited to kick things off. We had a fantastic race in Division 3. Division 2 brought its share of excitement as well. It was a fantastic race, and I think Division 1 is going to be no different here, as it's looking cloudy to kick off our qualifying session, so not as sunny skies as we saw in the Division 2 race, but still looking to be dry, at least to start things off, but we'll see how that moves forward as the session goes along.
We have a full 20-car grid. Great to see everybody on track, and we will get ready in just a few moments' time. We're about 17 minutes and 30 seconds in. Still no cars out on track, actually, so the drivers are waiting just a little bit. I'm not sure if we're...
We have a racing point that's just leaving the track now.
It's VMark getting on track. VMark, one of the top drivers in the last race, I believe, and we hopefully will see him do well here today, here in the racing point. Soon to be Aston Martin Racing once we get up into the new game, which, of course, Aston Martin Racing, the current team now that replaced Racing Points, just the name, really. But nonetheless, we'll see how VMark can do in the pink car here in Q1. As if you're not familiar with the full qualifying session, this is the only full qualifying that we run throughout the weekend. Full qualifying consists of Q1, which is 18 minutes, Q2, 15 minutes, and Q3, 12 minutes. Drivers are intermediately taken off and eliminated as they are unable to make it into the next session if they are unable to set the fastest time needed. And ultimately, we'll get down to the top 10, who will go for the top 10 shootout for pole position here today. It is definitely going to be very interesting to see the times towards Q3. This is a track where it is very easy to set certain amounts of times, but when you get into the upper echelon of the times here, it is extremely difficult, and I still can't quite understand how drivers do it, but nonetheless, we do have a few here like FRL Chapelelli and SweetCrown19 who can definitely show us that. I don't see SweetCrown on the board, though. Is he not in the race?
I do not think he is racing, because I am looking at the Williams team. Josh, too, is in his seat as he normally is, but looking as though reserving here in the other Williams seat out on track right now in their outlap is Krishna, who, to be fair, had another solid result in the Division 2 race not too long ago. So I think Sweet Crown may be unable to make it here today. I think still sorting out some issues with his, I'll be honest, with that controller of his not showing up here today once again. But we'll see what Krishna can do for the Williams, as I think it's his debut in Division 1. Unless he might have reserved in the past. I'm actually forgetting a little bit, but we'll see how he performs.
Just give me one moment, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Of course, but crucially, I think we'll see how VMark does as well, leading the way in the racing point. Just to sort of get back to this a little bit, like we were mentioning earlier, had a really solid drive in Division 2 earlier here today. Came into was leading the way through the entirety of the race, but took a penalty in the track limits, which did knock him down into second, but was showing a lot of pace in Division 2 and set a pretty monster qualifying lap to go with it right at the final moments of the short qualifying session. So I think we'll have to see how VMark does perform, but he's about to finish his first lap now coming around the line, and it is a 125.2 as that first time. And I'm just gonna check in. Ix, are you back with us? Are you good to go? Or are you still
I
sorting
am.
some issues out on your
I
end?
was just getting a little interference. I don't know if you could hear it on your end, but I was just getting a little interference in my microphone on my end. But I am back. And sorry, what I did see VMark's time 125.2. That is the pace setter. I'm sure we will be going a little bit quicker than that today. But what are you saying?
Oh, I was just sort of talking a little bit about VMark's performance in Division Two. His time in Division Two when he set that was a 124.2. So there is probably a lot of pace in VMark, and Krishna as well, just as another reserve, having a solid drive in Division Two. And we'll see how both of those drivers can fare here against the other Division One drivers we have. But he's had Kush setting a 124.2 in his first lap, so that's looking to put him probably, I would think, comfortably into qualifying too after that first lap.
Let me get the lap data up and the track data up. And Yarno goes 9th fastest, and that's quickly gone. Was 8th fastest. And then Efra Shapalili makes it the 10th fastest time as he goes fastest on track, 124 flat almost here in Q1. Efra Shapalili looking to set some good pace and bring up even more advantage on his championship rival. I believe he's at Kush, still the leader in the championship. But you might have to correct me on that one. How are the standings looking at the moment?
I will just go ahead and pull them up right now, as just bear with me a few moments. Looking at the standings, at least as far as the Drivers' Championship is concerned, it is Shapalili leading the way with 217 points, kind of running away with the championship here. Sweet Crown 19, not here today once again, is in second with is in third actually, with 151 points, because his teammate Josh 2, currently in fourth in the timing tables, is in second with 157 points. And Izat Kush, the man you were talking about, is currently in fourth with 139 points after a race to forget last weekend. But looking to bounce back and at least showing he's got a lot of pace early on here around Silverstone. And it is Eklund who's rounding out the top five, who hasn't set a lap just yet, but another driver to keep an eye out for in that battle with the drivers' standings. In fifth, a little bit of a distant fifth with 108 points.
And I am riding on board right now with ISRL Feral Fury, who is coming towards the end of Sector 3, and we will see how the Haas driver can get settled here in qualifying. It has been an interesting season for the Haas drivers so far. Hopefully, as we move through the halfway point of the season, we can see a little bit of more consistent, better performances from him. Feral Fury comes across the line and goes P9 at the moment. That should be good enough to put him into the next session. Both the Alfa Romeo drivers have retired from the session rotation, and Chapeloli pretty satisfied at their times right now as we are moving into the final 10 minutes of Q1.
And I don't blame them, if I'm being completely honest. Looking at the timing tables, 124 flat nearly, 124.3, looking to be pretty good times, at least from what I'm seeing with the timing tables, given where the top 10 and currently where that cutoff is. I've been hearing whispers that if you're not within at least minimally the 124s, you're not looking to be in a decent position, even to make it out of qualifying one. And seeing now, currently Eklund in 10th is in the 124.9s, so I do think that by the time qualifying does move forward, like I was saying, if you're still in the 125s, I don't think you're going to be sitting in much of a decent position.
Oh, and there's an incident, and Indigo's had a spin as he was finishing up his lap, and that's some major wing damage for the Renault driver, and he does come across the line P8, so that looks to be a good enough time to make it into the next session. But unfortunately, Indigo's had a little bit of a spin. That's going to have to be a pit stop after this lap, which I'm sure he would anyway. But thankfully, not a retirement. But as you can see there, major front wing damage on the right side of his car, and he is going to have to repair that. And we will have to wait and see if he's going to be able to get around for another lap time, as surely that's going to make his in-lap a lot slower.
Oh, definitely, and it's a long way around the track here when you don't have that front wing working for you. You do absolutely need that downforce, and you'll see him probably flash a lot of yellow flags as he's trying to get around. I was riding on board with Ferg as it looked like he was on a flying lap with the Ferrari, but unfortunately loses the back end on the exit of Cop's corner and invalidates that lap. But I do want to just make a note about that in terms of the track limits, my famous track limits I love to discuss. But here around Silverstone, they can definitely come and bite you a lot more than they would in some other circuits, especially, for example, the exit of Cop's Corner, where if you go just a little bit too wide on the outside, the marshals here on the track are very unforgiving with that. They don't care. They'll slap you with a penalty. They will invalidate your time here in qualifying, and Ferg is probably one of the many victims of that here even early on in this qualifying session.
So all the times are pretty much on the board except for Ferg, as you said. He had that invalidation. And at the moment, he is not going to make it in, of course, if he does not get a time on the board. Hopefully he can make it into the 124s, as the 125s, as you said, very much the cutoff, really, as Krishna just going to eke in, as he does have a 125 flat, which Jerome Vasseur very much close to that as well. So is Du Will with a 125.0 of his own. ISRL Knight with a similar time, a little bit further back, though, 0.2 of a second, though he is improving on this lap, it looks like, and he has, in fact, gone fastest in the second sector. So we'll see if Knight can put together a good lap and put himself maybe into the 124s, make himself a little bit safer for the next session. He's about to come towards the end of the lap, coming through the final chicane, and it's that little hump right there that unsettles the rear. He got through it okay, coming around the final turn, and the time is going to be 11th fastest, 124.9, which a lot of drivers are sitting in at the moment, but it is good enough to get him into the next session. Right now, his teammate Du Will going to have to improve a little bit, sitting down in 17th, of course, his teammate knocking him down a little bit of a step.
Yeah, I think Du Will maybe going to be waiting a little bit, waiting until a little later in this session before coming out. There's still 7 minutes to go in this qualifying one session, so loads of time to get back out on track. But, of course, you don't want to be waiting until the last possible moment if you can help it, because then you have to rely on being perfect. Now, I'm looking at the Haas teams here. Jeroen Vasseur set a purple second sector as he was getting a little bit of slipstream, a little bit of tow from his teammate of Feral Fury down the hangar straight right before Stowe corner. And we'll see as he's coming around the final corner, up into 7th for Jeroen Vasseur, and that's a 124.6. So I believe that tow really helped him out there, gain those extra 10th of a second, and that puts him into a decent position, I'll be honest, to make it through potentially into qualifying too, just given where the timings are. It looks like I'm looking at the top 5, but other than Josh too, pretty much everyone from the top 5 is happy. Passassin with that 124.5. He's feeling confident he's going to make it through into qualifying too as well. And I'm looking here, and already 15th, which is currently occupied by Eklund, below the 125s into the 124s. So a little bit of what I was saying earlier, that those 125s definitely a cutoff, and those who currently have times in the 125s gonna have to improve, gonna have to go faster here in these last 5.5 minutes.
I want to ride, I'm going to continue to ride on board with Ferg, as he is one of the only drivers without a time at the moment in the session. So we'll see how he can get along here as we're into the final 5 minutes. Probably going to be one of his only times on the board, though he has gone fastest in the first sector, so not a bad start to that. In the number 22 SF1000, the car supposed to have challenged for the World Championship in Formula 1. Not that good in real life, but the Ferrari drivers here in Division 1 have been very competitive. Ferg especially has been extremely quick all season long. Hopefully he can be very quick here today at Silverstone as he's coming through Maggots and Beckett's, about to come into Chapel, and we'll see how he does on the back straight here. DRS opening up immediately out of the exit, and he has gone fastest in the second sector. So Ferg is actually looking very competitive right now, looking to put himself on the top step of the sheets as long as he can have a good final sector. Krishna getting out of the way at the end of the lap and braking just after the 100-meter board coming into the final chicane. Here we go from Ferg, looking to put himself fastest overall, comes across the line, and it is going to be 7th fastest, so he had a bit of a weak Sector 3, but nonetheless, he has put himself well into the next session. I would be shocked to see him move down the order. 124.6 is the time from the Ferrari driver, and hopefully Jarno can put in a better time himself. But right now, I believe he is on a in-lap / warm-up lap to go again.
Yeah, he was on a flying lap a little bit ago. I think when you're riding on board with Ferg, Jarno was on his flying lap. It did put him up to 14th at the time, but did get bumped down to 15th once his teammate's time did get put up on the board. But I think that might be Jarno might be hoping for I guess a prayer and a little bit of luck. Because I'm looking at his telemetry, he does have that gas light flashing, and he is diving into the pits, and I don't know if he's going to have enough time to get back out on track to get that final lap set.
I would say probably not. About to go into the 2-minute board there. It is going to take a bit for him to get back into his pit box, so I'd assume not. Though, for some reason, it said he did go faster on track regardless by 0.3 of a second. But right now, he is still safe, 15th fastest on track, so he is still good for the next session, though I have a feeling that that's not going to last too much longer. As I am riding on board right now with Eklund, who's about to come across the line, and he is only going to go into the 125. It's actually slower than his previous time, and he is currently still sitting 17th fastest. So Jarno still safe at the moment. Krishna right now, he's sitting in 18th right now. We'll see how he can do as he's coming through the first sector. Let's see what that split's going to be if he goes any faster. Sitting on a 125 flat at the moment, so those 125 flat time really did not stand well here in the session as he's coming towards the end of Sector 1, and he's going to go about 0.2 faster. So right now, he'd be pushing Jarno out of the next session. We'll see if he can keep that up through the rest of the lap. And as it was looking a little dark, Jordan said, but rotation is confirming that there is no rainfall. Rotation, a maybe driver to drive here today at Silverstone. His seat is technically given up, but he is going to be reserving here today, and he is confirming no rainfall here in Silverstone as we see somebody cut a major portion of the track to get out of the way of
that
Krishna.
Might have been Eklund.
Eklund getting out of the way, looked like, as here we go. Krishna, he's coming towards the end, and he has, in fact, set a fastest second sector. So right now, a really nice time for Krishna, looking to make it into the second qualifying session. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, as he's coming into the final chicane here, and we're going to see how Krishna fares. Will he make it into the next session? Was looking very good through the second sector, comes across the line, and he's going to go 7th fastest, an amazing time towards the end. They're almost half a second faster than his previous, and that's going to knock Jarno out of the session at the moment, unless he can get around for another lap. He's only got a minute to go, and he's just come out, I believe, of the first sector.
Yeah, so it's going to be close for Jarno if he can make it through. I'm looking here. We'll see. Knight did unfortunately invalidate on his final attempt at a lap, and he's currently sitting in 15th for the Red Bull team. But I mean, I don't think Eklund's going to be able to set a time, but with Jamie on a time, Carter currently on a time, Dewell just starting his time, I don't think Knight is sitting too comfortable with that 124.9 on the board, and we'll have to see how this will all play out. But with 20 seconds to go, I don't think Jarno is going to make it in time.
Well, right now I want to see how Carter gets on because he is sitting in 20th right now. This is his final lap to try to make it out of the session. Unfortunately, it is faster, but it is not fast enough, and Carter stays in P20. A pretty dismal performance for the Mercedes driver. Another qualifying woes for Mercedes. Jamie as well. And as you said, has he gone around for another lap? It looks like, though, Jarno did get around, and he is good to go. And he is setting one more hot lap. Right now, he's got V-Mark, though, in front of him. I don't believe V-Mark is done. No, V-Mark is, I believe, also on another lap. He is, so this is going to be a little tricky for Jarno. He does have some slipstream advantage, but if he catches up to the Racing Point driver, he will have some trouble through the second sector. Madkins and Beck, it's very difficult to navigate with another driver in front of you.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that plays out. I was riding with Jamie and in 17th, had a purple second sector to his name, looking to be a good lap, and there you go, up into 7th for the Mercedes driver, and that did knock Knight out of qualifying, and Feral Fury, who is on a lap, currently sitting on the bubble of that P15,
Ooh, and now
do will...
Will has gone up to 16th fastest. He knocks his teammate down to place. Yarno keeps going down places. He's got to have a really nice lap at the moment. Has improved in the second sector by about a tenth of a second. V-Mark is is he boarding his lap? He had a little bit of a moment there, and now it looks like the Ferrari might be catching up to him. He goes into the pit lane, so the Ferrari, if he was going to get held up, is fine for now. Coming through the final sector, he is the final driver to come across the line to set one more time. Comes across the line, only 17th, and he does not make it in, and it is one Ferrari out, one Ferrari in, and Yarno, unfortunately, is the prancing horse out in qualifying, and Feral Fury stays safe with that 124.809, and Do Will was only about 600ths of a second off of that time, and unfortunately that means he's not in the qualifying. Red Bull with a dreadful qualifying performance, 16th and 18th respectively here in Britain, and you're starting to see tracks like this. Britain, a track where I very much believe true pace comes out of, and you're starting to see some drivers falter a little bit. VER Indigo, I might want to add as well, has gone up to 4th fastest. So Indigo looking for a good performance here today. He's had a few interesting moments so far joining the league, but I know Indigo as a driver myself, having commentated on him before, he is a driver to watch out for. When he is all good to go, he is definitely a driver which can bring a lot of damage in all the good ways here today.
Oh, definitely, and he's shown glimpses of Ver Indigo has here at ISRL of the magic that he can show in that Renault. But as you mentioned, it's more a matter of consistency for Indigo. And right now, up in the P4, showed some solid pace in qualifying 1, and we'll see if he can carry that over as the session moves along.
Nonetheless, we are done with the first qualifying session. I was hoping I was going to get a lineup, but I'm not getting anything at the moment.
Oh, you're not getting a lineup. I see.
I'm not. No, I was like, wait, where's the lineup from X? It's not happening because I have a black screen at the moment. So good game, thank you. But nonetheless, I think you can see on the stream. Oh no, we're just going to load in the qualifying too. Okay, game. Always an interesting experience with F1 2020. Yeah, so nonetheless, we're going to go into Q2. I will tell you the drivers who we have in this session. It's Feral Fury, Jerome Vasseur, Josh 2, Ferg, Rotation, Nathan JB, Wuhan, Krishna, Izak Kush, Passassin, Chapelelli, Sophion, V-Mark, Jamie, and Indigo are the drivers here in the session for Q2. As I said, Q2 is 15 minutes long. So drivers have 15 minutes to try to set the fastest time possible to make it into the next session, with a bit of a caveat being that, of course, the tire you set your fastest time on, if you are making it into the top 10, that is the tire you will start the race on. Now, I expect most drivers on a dry race condition, which is what this track is going to be in race time, probably going to try a one-stop from the soft to the medium tire. That was the strat last season, probably going to be the same strat this season. Of course, that is if we don't have any safety cars, which is not necessarily a confirmation, but could possibly happen. We'll have to wait and see. But that is the, of course, the strategy that you have if nothing happens. That was a mouthful. I'm going to try to correct myself here, ladies and gentlemen, because we're having a bit of a few kerfuffles in the sentence creation engine in my brain. That was a Murrayism and a half, if there ever was one. But nonetheless, Fallen, talk us through here as we get into Q2. What are drivers going to have to do to make it into the next session? Do you think we're going to see some medium tire runners actually make it through? Or are drivers like Chapelelli just giving us a little tease?
I mean, currently, it's funny you're mentioning the little tease. I'm seeing a lot of drivers out on their outlaps with the medium tires. So I think at least to start off, we might see, I think we're seeing a lot of drivers putting on those medium tires just to see what kind of pace they've got compared to everybody else. But if you're a driver, for example, like Chapelelli, I'm thinking, I don't know, let's say Josh too, a lot of Isaac Kush even, who are out on those medium tires, just to see, like I was saying, where that pace is, and if they're feeling confident with that time, if it can make it through into qualifying 3, because it can put you potentially at a bit of an advantage being able to go a little bit longer on that harder tire. And when you do end up taking that pit stop to put on the soft tires, sticking to that optimal strategy, it basically allows you to be on that quickest tire when the track is at its quickest, when your fuel is much lower than it would be with the start of the race, which can really allow you to pump out some laps, show a lot of pace. You will need to get some overtakes done, but being on that fresher, more ideal tire near the end of the race can definitely have its advantages, I'm sure. So I do think we might see drivers just attempting to get that time set on the medium tires, but as the times start to fall, normally what we tend to see in qualifying 2 is medium times are on the board to start off the session, but then as more times start falling on the soft tires and more quicker times, that's when you tend to see a lot of the grid move towards that. Because of course you want to make it through into that top 10 shootout, because then you can compete for a much better qualifying position. And from what I've seen, whether it be in the dries or the wets, Silverstone is a relatively difficult track to overtake. The dirty air can definitely affect you here on these corner exits, and track position is very important here at this track, like it is in just about every track, but more so here with the way the layout is.
Nonetheless, though, we are seeing some time start to fly, and Chapelelli has set the pace so far, 124.6, as Josh 2 has gone second fastest, and that is quickly we're having times fly all over the board as drivers are trying to come in. I'm trying to keep track. Indigo was third fastest, and Isaac Kush beat that one, 124.7 from the AlphaTauri driver, and Chapelelli's looking, excuse me a second, I'm having these weird... like these weird breathe-in moments, and I don't know why I'm doing it, but it's sounding a little odd on the microphone, I'm sure. I'm going to try to stop doing that. I don't know why, but nonetheless, Chapelelli has gone fastest. He's at Kush second. The two Williams drivers of Krishna and Josh 2, as mentioned before, Krishna with a podium in Division 2 is looking really fast right now in Division 1. So Krishna is putting in an amazing performance here in Britain, and I can see why he would want to reserve in this race, because he just set a fastest Sector 2. So Krishna, is this another lap he's going for on these on these soft compound tires? Because he is looking wicked right now pace-wise.
Yeah, it's looking like it. Set that first lap in on the softs, and now maybe looking to put another one in order to test the pace, break those tires in. Now, normally, I don't think it would be the best idea to push an extra lap on the soft tires, especially if you're looking to make it through into qualifying 3, given that rule about having to start on that set of tires if it is your fastest lap time.
But so I think he is going to go into the pits again. His second sector was not very quick. Oh, but he's going to go around again. I'm surprised.
Yeah, looks, interesting.
I'm not sure if this is the best. Maybe he believes it's going to improve again further into the session. The track will, of course, evolve a little bit as he goes a little faster, actually, and in fact goes ahead of Isaac Kush up in the second. But at the moment, again, I'm not really too sure this is the best strategy call, given the fact that you are very likely to make it into the next session, I think, with that time. So Krishna, at the moment, using up his soft tires a little bit too much. I apologize, Fawn. Please continue. I have interrupted you a few times so far.
No worries whatsoever. I was just going to mention that here around Silverstone, I'm actually going to bring a little bit of a counter-argument here to what you're mentioning and what we were both saying about it normally not being an optimal strategy, but here around Silverstone, the tire degradation isn't nearly as high as it is on some of these other circuits. You can really easily do that one-stop soft to mediums as we were talking about the strategy earlier, and I feel here around Silverstone, taking that one extra lap on those soft tires might not make all that much of a difference in terms of the tire wear, in terms of the strategy with the pit stops. Because either way, even if you do need to pit one lap earlier, putting on those medium tires, it won't make all that much of a difference come race time. But I just noticed on the exit of Magnussen Beckett into Chapel, that's Feral Fury having an accident, and he's out of this qualifying session. Has a time on the board at the very least in 10th, but that's the end of his qualifying, as the team definitely will not be able to fix that car in time for qualifying 3, even with 8 minutes to go in qualifying 2 to do it before we move on.
All right, Fallen. I know we want to be a little immersive here, and I appreciate the comment, but we all know the car wasn't going to get fixed regardless. But I appreciate the immersion, having a little bit of Netflix Drive to Survive commentary there, a little stuff that doesn't make any sense, but we appreciate the effort. But I couldn't let that slide. It's like, it's not happening, because we all know it ain't gonna happen. Nonetheless, though, as you said, Feral Fury not in a great place right now, given the fact that Wuhan and Rotation are without times at the moment. Both drivers we know can go a little bit faster than a 125.1. Feral Fury in some trouble right now, is probably going to get knocked out of this session.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think he is going to get knocked out either way. Already the cutoff for the end of qualifying 1 was in the high 124s. So already I feel any driver that's currently in the 125s now, like Nathan, your own Vasseur, I mean Feral Fury's time, I think it's definitely going to get beaten as this qualifying session plays out. But crucially, I was riding with AJ, who was on a lap, goes wide on Cop's corner, and gets that invalidation. And that's a medium tire lap time. That's all for nothing, as he's going to have to get into the pits, put on get another lap done. Assassin's just starting his lap. That 127.4 I really don't think is representative of the pace that the McLaren driver has and normally has been able to show.
Meanwhile, I do want to mention here, Chapelelli's going on a 123 right now. He just went fastest in the second sector by 0.7 of a second. So hold on your pants right now. We may have a 123 in just a moment's time. Chapelelli is coming around the final turn, and it's coming across the line, and it is a 123.849, and the pants have come off. The soft tires are on, and now you see a really fast time from Chapelelli. That is a blistering lap here in Q2. That is something I want to mention, though, while you brought up that counter-argument about the fact that tire tag is not too bad here. Will we see drivers put... Oh, Josh 2 has collided with Rotation on an outlap, and Josh 2 has picked up a 5-place grid penalty for the trouble. So that is not what the Williams team needed to afford here in today's race. That's a 5-place grid penalty for some collision with one of the Alfa Romeo drivers. I believe that was in fact Rotation he made contact with.
I do think it was as well, from what I saw with the race director, with the little flash up of the names that appear on the screen. But now the pressure is on for Josh 2, not only to try to make it through into qualifying 3, which put himself in a decent position so far to do it, but once he does get into qualifying 3, really get that perfect lap in to limit the damage of that 5-place grid penalty he's now going to have to serve come the start of the race. Of course, if you qualify P1 and take that 5-place grid penalty, it's still starting in P5, which is a decent spot. But if you're down in 8th or 9th, that can hurt a lot more, having to start right in the middle of the pack. Especially with the way the first few turns of Silverstone can be high speed and very dangerous if we're not careful. As I'm sure you know, Ix, having raced it as well.
Yes. It is.
Yeah, but we'll have to keep an eye out on that. Falling down into 5th is Josh 2, but currently on a flying lap, so we'll see what it's going to be coming through sector 2. It is nearly 0.6 faster for the Williams driver, so looking to show a lot of pace, and crucially, here in these later stages of qualifying too, a little bit of what I was mentioning, where a lot of drivers went out on the medium tires to start off, get that quote-unquote banker lap in, but now with the soft tire time starting to fall, you're seeing a lot of them do that.
Josh 2 had an invalidated lap, and it looked like, in fact, the game gave it to him and, in fact, deleted the lap. So that's an interesting little thing right there. He had gone third fastest, but now is in a position where he's going to be outside the top 10 after this 10-place grid penalty. So now 7th fastest for Josh 2. So this has really not been a great turn of events here, because this lap is also invalidated because he went too wide. Now he's 8th fastest. Josh 2 is having an absolute disaster here in qualifying. He is dropping down the order like a fly right now because of all the medium tire runners now going to the soft tire and setting much faster times.
And crucially, more times left to fall.
And there we go again.
Yeah, rotation just set a time. Assassin's on an outlap, and we know he can go much faster. AJ's currently on a time coming through Cop's corner right now. Keeps it clean this time around. And, well, had a little bit of tow from Josh 2 leading into Maggots and Beckett's. But for Josh 2, like you mentioned, a very costly mistake for the Williams driver. I think he's just going to continue to fall down the order. And I don't think that 124.8 is going to hold up all that much here.
You're right, it's not going to hold up
stages,
especially right now, because Indigo's on a big time lap, fastest in the second sector, coming around the final turn. It's a 124.3 for him, and now Josh 2's into the top 10 only by 1. Then Wuhan goes up to 10th fastest, so Josh 2 is now out of the session, and he dives into the pit lane, and it's all over for Josh 2. A 5-place grid penalty to come with him as well. He retires from the session. It's been a disaster for Williams. Now Krishna down in 9th right now on the grid. He has gone a little bit faster on that lap, but it looks like we'll have to wait and see. I believe he's on a hot lap right now. Let me bring up the telemetry. Yes, he is on a hot lap, so we'll see if he can go a little faster again. But right now, Krishna's on the verge of elimination. This is an absolute reversal of fortunes from what we've seen so far from the constructor based out of Britain here, Williams Racing. It is not looking too good right now. Krishna is trying to set a faster time here at the end of Q2, but he sits 9th fastest. There's still some drivers like Passassin who could go even faster, and right now he's on a absolute flyer, looks like right now, coming out of the final turn, comes across the line, 4th fastest, and now Krishna's into the top 10 only by 10th place. And V-Mark still has an opportunity with about 30 seconds left to go. Wuhan is on a lap right now, looks like again. No, he's actually aborted that. So I believe V-Mark is the only driver who could knock Krishna out of the top 10. But can he, in fact, do so? V-Mark is down in there in 14th of 125.4. Let's see if he could do it. Fallen, talk us through this lap.
So let's see, coming through, starting turn 1, very high speed through turn 1 and turn 2 with the hard braking zone into turn 3 as qualifying just ends. Into turn 4, you want to get on the power quick, but gotta watch out. Easy place to lose the back end if you're not careful. Down, opens up the DRS flap, does the Racing Point driver out of turn 5, I believe. Into turn 6. Clips that inside curve very nicely, doesn't go too wide. You want to go a little bit wide and then come right back in quickly on the power here. Take that very tight line through down the what is the old start finish straight through into Cop's corner. Doesn't go too wide there, keeps it clean. Now into Maggots and Beckett's, can really make or break your lap if you're not careful. Can maybe cut the curbs a little bit more, but playing it safe here is V-Mark. Now down through into Chapel, down the hanger straight. That was a purple second sector, 7/10 faster than his previous time. So if he can keep it together through into Stowe, I believe that is. He's only got a few corners to go now. The hard braking left-handed corner, does a good job clipping the curb into the right, quickly on the power, takes that last little bit of curb, keeps it clean, up into 9 goes V-Mark.
It's 9 for V-Mark, and that puts Krishna out of the top 10, and Williams has had a shocker here in Division 1, 11th and 13th on the grid. Josh, too, with a major blunder as well. He's going to go even further down the order outside of the top 15.
Yeah, so from bad to worse for the Williams as Krishna unable to improve, not setting a lap here. I think, I'll be honest, I think he's out of fuel, potentially, or just about, as he's trying to get into the pits, letting
I don't think, let me see if the telemetry, yeah, he is out of fuel.
Yeah, I think he was going slow, letting that, I think it was Ver Indigo who's going around, not realizing that that lap was already set. But heartbreak for Josh, too, as he doesn't make it through and falls down 5 more positions to go along with that.
And let me see if I get a leaderboard. I do, and there is your lineup for the top 10 come the next qualifying session. It's Chapelelli in first, Isaac Cushion second, third for rotation, Bassassin in fourth. Ferg rounds off your top 5. Nathan JB in 6th, Indigo in 7th, 8th for Jerome Vasseur, 9th for V-Mark, and Sophion is rounding off your top 10. Out of qualifying are Krishna, AJ Wuhan, Josh 2, Feral Fury, and Jamian are out. Jamian, unfortunately, not able to pole vault Mercedes up into Q3. But Josh, too, sitting in 13th right there, is going to drop down to 17th after the penalties that he will receive after qualifying because, of course, as we remember, we saw that contact being made. Or at least I didn't see it, but the game saw it, and unfortunately that means he is going to be picking up a 5-place grid penalty. Very costly here for Williams. We'll see how many points they lose in the Constructors today unless they're able to claw back. But right now, it's time for Q3. It's time for the fastest session of the weekend. It's time for the top 10 shootout for pole position.
Yep, and as far as the tires are concerned here for this top 10 shootout, no question, everybody's going to be going out on the soft tires, and potentially 2 laps that drivers are going to set. The first lap normally tends to be that banker lap just to put a time on the board, but later on in the session, once we get down to about 2-3 minutes to go, that's when you're going to start seeing these times really start to fall. It's when you're going to start seeing the order be shaken up so much more when drivers are just pushing the car to their limits, pushing making the track is going to be at its quickest, the drivers are going to be at their quickest, and we in the comms booth going to have to be alert of all the position changes near the end there, but we've got, I think, a rotation for the moment, going to be leading the way on the outlap, putting on those soft tires. I'm seeing V-Mark in the pits flirting with those medium tires, but I think he's going to be putting on a set of soft tires before actually heading out on track and getting that lap set.
Rotation is the furthest driver ahead on track coming down the old start-finish straight. Rotation was the driver that was made contact with Josh 2. Now, I do not believe Rotation has picked up a 5-place grid penalty of his own. Usually, sometimes you tend to have contact and the game gives both drivers penalties, but thankfully for Rotation, I believe that's not going to be the case. So Rotation will be good to go, and we'll see if he can challenge for pole position here today. We've seen some drivers with some very impressive lap times. I'm going to try to keep my eye on Indigo. I think Indigo could be a sleeping horse here in Britain. He's looked very fast so far. We'll see if he can put together a good lap and put himself on the top sheets today. But nonetheless, Rotation is coming through that final chicane, coming into the final turn. Here we go. Alfa Romeo, Vapor Rotation. Here we go. The start of Q3 is underway. Coming into turn 1, coming into turn 2, keeping it close to the curb before coming towards the curb again, and now coming into turn 3, quickly turning for turn 4, another braking zone right here, and then this very quick, it's almost a hairpin almost, kind of similar to what's in Mexico near the end of the first sector, though a little bit longer. Now coming towards Brooklands down the straight, and he has gone fastest, of course, in the first sector. Let's bring up the where is it? The lap data right there. Yep, there it is. Sector 2 coming in towards the old start-finish line. Able to cut a little bit of the line right there, and he does so, about to come into Cobbs. Careful not to overextend your track line right here, and he has a horrible line and a big spin from the Alfa Romeo driver, and he keeps it out of the wall, thankfully, as he just comes back on track from the old pit lane exit, but thankfully for rotation, he keeps it alive, but that is a spin on his first lap, and that is definitely going to ruin the tires a little bit, and you may have to go for a pit stop and put on a new set of tires.
Yeah, I would not be surprised, and seeing, at least here so far in this session, as far as qualifying is concerned, that Cobbs corner has been causing issues for a lot of drivers. Lots of invalidations, I would say a few spins, and I know it's been an issue through the entirety of the day here, as far as Sunday's concerned, as he's at Kush sets that fastest lap. But Cobbs corner, it is a corner you can go flat out on, but you gotta make sure you get that line right. Because if you do mess up, best case scenario, you're invalidating. Worst case scenario, you end up doing something similar to rotation, but it could be the end of your session if you're not careful. But thankfully for rotation, kept it out of the wall, just took a spin, and can very easily trek back to the pits, put on that fresh set of tires, and head back out a little bit later when the track is at its quickest, and he can put that fast lap in and try to potentially compete for pole. That's currently being occupied by Isaac Kush, but I'll see as I'm riding myself with Chapelelli if Chapelelli can maybe make a push to set that fastest lap time early on. Does go purple in the second sector, so it's looking to be a pretty good lap for the other Alfa Romeo driver so far, as he's only got a sector, a few corners to go now, just has to keep it clean, and we'll see where the time is going to put him, and he's going to have to break into the 123s. We've seen him do it before in this session. Can he do it again? Yes, he does. That's a 123.7 for Chapelelli, really showing why he's leading the way in the driver's standings so far in Season 4.
V-Mark is about to finish up a lap as well in the Racing Points as he is coming around out of the chicane, coming around the final turn, clipping that curve just a little bit, and it's going to be a 124.8. That is definitely not a time to behold for fastest here in the session. So V-Mark probably going to have to improve just a little bit because he's got Sophion, Rotation, and Indigo all without times, and we all know these drivers can maybe go a little bit faster than that. We'll see how Sophion gets around as he is coming through the final chicane, coming into the final turn, and it's looking to be an okay time, and it is going to be a little bit faster than V-Mark, but not by much, about 800ths of a second faster than V-Mark. Rotation is back on an outlap. Indigo is now coming out of the pit lane and going to begin a lap on the medium compound tire. A very interesting call right now. I'm not too sure why he's gone onto the mediums. Maybe he thinks he can go a little bit faster than some of those soft tire runners. Maybe he's just having a bit of fun. But nonetheless, Indigo is coming out with about 5 minutes left to go in the session, and I believe that's going to be it for him. And he has a big spin out of the pit lane, and he has a 360 right there, and that's not a good start to those set of tires. But nonetheless, Indigo, we'll see how he gets along as Rotation is starting off what will probably be his only, one of his only laps. He's probably going to have 2 runs on this set, but it is going to be his last time to make a run. So he's going to have to make these 2 laps count, and we'll see how he gets underway. A bit of a lockup coming in towards the straight as he comes into that little kink, over the kink, cuts it a little bit as you do, coming towards the end of Sector 1, and that time is going to be fastest in Sector 1, and he has a bit of a slide right there, but right now Rotation is on a flyer, and he's looking to finally make it a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo, who have flirted with a 1-2 in qualifying for a while, but just haven't been able to quite do it.
Yeah, and it's looking to be, I mean, so far it's looking on a pretty good pace for it.
Oh,
but
and another
has a moment.
Now Rotation, that's the second time. Yep, the second time in that particular part of the track where he has had an off, and Rotation is on an invalidated lap. So now Rotation has only one time, only one more lap to be able to set a faster one.
And the question for that, we'll find out in a little bit here, but the question as well is Rotation going to stay out like you were indicating, or knowing that this lap isn't going to count, is he maybe going to dive into the pits? Yes, he is.
So he's going to try again on a new set.
Yep, and crucially, it looks like Indigo also jumped into the pits, so maybe it was a bit of a mistake with that call to put on the medium tires. A little miscommunication in the pit wall or something of the sort for Indigo, but back into the pits, probably going to be putting on a set of soft tires to get that final lap set. And I think V-Mark is going to go out as well a little bit later. He set that initial lap on the medium tires. Just something to point out, which is why it was so much so off the pace compared to what we've seen. But with 3.5 minutes to go, we're seeing the likes of Ferg, Passassin, they're already out on track, and I'm seeing more drivers hitting the track to put out their final laps of the session, and this is where we're probably going to start seeing the order shake up just a little bit, as drivers are really going to be pushing to get that fastest possible lap when the track is going to be at its quickest. And I think it's going to be Ferg who's going to lead the way with these final laps in the Ferrari. So here we go. Can Ferg maybe challenge for pole? We know he's got a lot of pace, but just needs to put that lap together. Can he do it here when it matters most at the end of qualifying 3?
We will have to wait and see, but nonetheless, Ferg is on a lap right now and are riding on board of him in Sector 1. We'll see how the Sector 1 split is going to end up for him, and it's going to be fastest in the first sector, so Ferg is looking to make it a very Italian front row at least, with a fastest Sector 1, and a bunch of drivers right now trying to set fastest time. Vapor Passassin is on a timed lap right now in P4, and we'll see how he can get underway with that. Isaac Kush is warming up his tires on an out lap with 2 minutes left to go. There is a yellow flag in Sector 3, and that is for a Haas of Jerome Vasseur, who is on an out lap, just warming up his tires, I'm sure. Ferg is coming towards the end of Sector 2, and it is a fastest Sector 2 for Ferg. So right now, Ferg is looking to be the fastest man on track. He's gone purple in the first 2 sectors. Now remember, it was not a great final sector the last time we rode on board with the Ferrari driver. Can he get a little bit of a better one today? Coming through the final turn, maybe a little bit cleaner he could have been. Nonetheless, coming around the final turn, around the line, and it is going to be 3rd fastest for Ferg. So again, not the best final sector for the Ferrari driver, and he is only going to go 3rd fastest, but he'll be pretty happy with that one. 124 flat at the moment, his time. We'll see if anybody else right now can beat that.
Yep, Assassin crossed the line. He set that 124.1, 3/10 faster. Not quick enough for pole, but put him, at least for the moment, in P4. But there's still lots of drivers out on track trying to improve on their times. I saw it looked like that might have been okay. No, that was just Schiaparelli getting out of the way. I was a little worried that rotation had messed up in Maggots and Beckett's, but currently rotation still on a good lap and goes purple in the first sector for rotation. So it's looking to be a very solid lap, but the danger zone for him is still to come, as approaching now Copse Corner is rotation, and we'll have to see. 3rd time's the charm maybe for the Alfa Romeo driver. Let's take a look. And there we go. Does finally nail that corner. And now it's a matter of, can he just get the rest of the lap together? Looks like he keeps it clean through Maggots and Beckett's. Maybe a little bit cautious, but still goes purple in the 2nd sector. So it's looking to be a good lap for rotation. So potentially that Alfa Romeo 1-2 could still be a possibility as long as he can keep it together through Sector 3. And let's see, as he's got one final corner to do, gets on the power. Is it going to be quick enough? Up into provisional P1.
Pole position at the moment for Vapor rotation. What a flyer, 123.6. It's almost a 10th clear of his teammate. But Schiaparelli does have one more chance to set a faster lap, and we'll see if he can do so. Coming through the Chapel corner right there, Ferg is retired, sits 4th fastest. Schiaparelli looks to come to the end of Sector 2, and it is not the fastest Sector 2 of the session. Will he set a quick Sector 3? And we will wait and have to see on that one. Coming towards the end of it, through the final chicane, a bit of a lockup on the front left tire. coming around the final turn. Chapelelli across the line. It is going to be pole position by 300ths of a second. What a time from him. And it's a 1-2 at the moment, unless Isaac Kush has something to say about it, which he won't because it's an invalidated time. Let's see if anybody else can beat him. I don't think there is any other big times coming around. V-Mark's coming across the line, and he will go fastest into 9th ahead of Sophion. And let's see, yep, that is it. And it is going to finally be the 1-2. Chapelelli first, Vapor Rotation second. It's a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo coming into Britain.
There we go. For the Alfa Romeo squad, the job is half done. You've got that front row lockout, but we still have a race to have here. Qualifying might be over, but the race has yet to start, and as we've seen, anything can happen once we get on that track for the race. But already it puts themselves into a very decent spot. Chapelelli more than rotation, as he will get that outside line into turn 1, which I feel is a little bit more important. A lot harder to get that corner on the inside line when you're leading into turn 1. But we will see how this all plays out in just a few moments as we will progress into the race. And Ix, I'll let you take us through the top 10 order here one last time.
ISRL Chapelelli back on pole today with Vapor Rotation his teammate in second. A 1-2 for Alfa Romeo with Isaac Kush in third and AlphaTauri. And rounding off the top 4, the first 2 lineup is a Ferrari in fourth with Berg. Indigo in fifth in the Renault, McLaren sixth for Passassin, Jerome Vasseur in the Haas in seventh, eighth in the Nathan JB in eighth, and ninth for V-Mark in the 2 Racing Points. And AlphaTauri rounds off the grid with Sophion in 10th. That was a mouthful. I was trying to include the teams, and it was getting a little bit haywire there towards the end, but we got through it, and now it's time for the British Grand Prix. 26 laps around the Silverstone circuit here in Northamptonshire, Great Britain. Let's get set and ready to go. I don't know if I butchered that saying. I'm sure somebody will read me in the comments later on. But nonetheless, let's get set. It's time for the British Grand Prix. We're watching live coverage of the Division 1 World Championship on the ISRL Esports YouTube channel here for round number 8. It's the British Grand Prix. Can FRL Chapelelli capitalize and score even more points on his rivals here today? Or will Vapor Rotation be challenging him into turn 1 and looking for the lead of the race and possibly gaining a win today? Or will somebody else come for the challenge? Let's wait and see. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Make sure to leave a like on the live stream and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a race or live stream from the channel. And make sure to tune in for the next Top Moments video coming on Thursday. This time it will be for Britain. Thank you to all of our sponsors, IMB Racewear, Jackson Protection Agency, and IFEA. You are the guys that make us continue to do well and continue to bring amazing action. Make sure to head over to everybody's respective social media pages and check out what they do. Of course, IMB Racewear, the official partner, the official merch partner of ISRL Esports, Jackson Protection Agency, a world-class security agency based in the United States, partly run by our very own ISRL Hartman. So great to see some interleague action. And of course, IFEA, partly ran by ISRL Esports. Great to have them as well as a partner here today. As session starts in 25 seconds, let's get set for action. Following a few predictions before we go over the grid order one more time.
Well, I'm expecting a solid race from Chapelelli. Let's see, rotation with a little bit less pressure now than he maybe had in the past. Could potentially have a strong showing with, I'll be honest, nothing to lose. And, of course, Passassin. Passassin always has a lot of pace. And I'm curious to see how he's going to fare here around Britain, starting in 6th, but always a driver to look out for.
And here we go over the grid order one more time. 26 laps of the British Grand Prix will begin on lap 1 with the man on pole position here today. FRL Chapelelli is on pole here in Britain. Vapor Rotation is going to start in second position alongside his teammate. Isaac Kush is going to be third on the grid with Cyril Ferg in 4th. Fifth position will belong to Indigo in the Renault, and in the McLaren is Vapor Rotation behind. Jerome in 7th position in the Haas with the 2 Racing Points 8th and 9th. Nathan JB and V Mark respectively, and Sophion is going to round off your top 10. Here is the rest of the grid order, starting with Krishna, who will also start on the soft compound tire with a hard tire on for AJ Wuhan. Interesting call right there. We'll see if it works out for him. As Feral Fury comes with the the predicted pit stop strategy came up and it ruined me. Feral Fury 13th on the grid on the mediums, and Jamie in 14th position on the mediums as well. CRL Do Will in the hard compound tire on 15th as well on the hards. 16th VR46 Urano on the medium tires. I'm just having a heck of a day in the commentator's booth. ISRL Knight on the medium tire in 17th. Josh 2 on the medium tire in 18th. Eklund on the medium tire in 19th, and Carter on the mediums in 20th. So Josh 2 actually dropped down to 18th on the grid after that 5-place grid penalty, so he's going to have a lot of work to do here today. But nonetheless, Schiaparelli is going to line up on his grid position slot, and we're about to get ready for the British Grand Prix.
Yep, like you were saying, lots of work for Josh too, and I find it interesting with AJ and Duwil putting on those hard tires, going against what the predicted strategy is so far. Maybe looking to go a little bit longer. I don't want to say hoping for that certain vehicle of safety, but it could potentially be in the back of their mind. But looking to go a little bit longer, get on the softs a little bit later. We'll see how that'll play out for them. But Ix, as the grid is lined up, I'll let you take us through the 5 red lights and the start of this race.
And here we go, getting ready. The engines are roaring, and we're getting ready for those 5 red lights. It's 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights here at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. The lights are out, and away we go here at round number 8. And Efraim Schiaparelli gets a good start, and there is rotation slotting in behind his teammate Isaac Kush, staying in 3rd position under pressure from the Ferrari. And we've already had some problems and some big spins. Feral Fury is around. Looks like Yarno's had a bad start. So has Jamie, who's having a bit of a moment in the grass, and it's a virtual safety car on lap 1, and that was a very early pit stop, very early problems, and a 5-second penalty for gaining 1 place. Krishna has picked up a 5-second penalty already for gaining 1 position, an illegal overtake apparently for him, and that is not how you want to start a race. But virtual safety car on lap 1, lots of contact coming in through turn number 1. Schiaparelli keeps the lead, Vapor Rotation in 2nd, and 3rd for Isaac Kush, 4th for Ferg, and rounding off the top 5 is the same, Indigo. So it looks like we're about to get underway. Ferg is right up on the back of Isaac Kush, and in fact, we have gone right away on the restart here. Isaac Kush is trying to gain a little bit on rotation. Rotation about the same gap from his teammate Schiaparelli, and we are back under racing conditions. Fallen, did you catch what happened on the race there? Is there a puncture for? It looks like there's some smoke coming off the back. It looked a little bit off of Schiaparelli's car, but he seems to be A-okay in this race. But Fallen, did you catch what happened in turn 1 there?
I didn't quite get to see what happened. I think it was just into turn 1, drivers battling out for position as much as they can, and it was a little high risk, high reward. Some contact was had, but you saw some spins. You're seeing Sophion dive into the pits. He took some wing damage through all of that, so that's going to be an early pit stop, a wing change. Even Nathan JB taking a pit stop as well. I didn't quite get to see what happened there. I thought I saw McLaren nearly losing it, but it looks as though that wasn't the case, as I think I got a little distracted from that near McLaren quote-unquote spin to catch what had actually happened right off the start there.
And I know that there is a little bit of a problem there with the boards. Feral Fury will be going back to his normal position, and as you can see there, places gained, pretty much nothing in the top 7. A fantastic start for Josh too. I said fart. We said it. It will be highlighted. A fantastic start for Josh too. Up 8 places, up 7 places is Eklund. Biggest loser, Nathan JB 10 places down, and he has a penalty for added insult to injury. Some little salt in the wound right there for the Racing Point driver. A lot of work to do here today in the race. Nonetheless, though, it is a very interesting top 5, top 6, as we can see there. A pass from Passassin on Indigo up into 5th place for the McLaren driver. And let's bring up the tires right now for everybody. Top 9 are all on the soft compound tire. 10th down, it's a mixture of the mediums, mostly mediums, with some hard runners as well still. And are we seeing some more pit stops? We are from Knight. Knight has made an early pit stop. Did he pick up damage of his own, or is this just an early pit stop for himself?
Let's take a look and see as I'm riding with Knight, but crucially, while it looks like there is going to be a wing change for the Red Bull driver, so potentially some damage there on lap 2. Krishna, oh my goodness, had a spin out of the final corner, got back on track, but taking turn 1, I think he just has way too much heat in those tires after that previous spin. Has another moment on the exit turn 1, and that's going to be a lot of time loss for the Williams drivers, so not looking all that great for Krishna here in his Division 1 race in these early stages, but it is only lap 3, so loads of time to potentially catch right back up. Anything can happen here, so a little early to call it quits. If you are Krishna, just gotta keep your head down and pump out a few hot laps and try to catch back up to the order.
Chapelelli is the leader in this Grand Prix. Vapor Rotation in 2nd. Isaac Kush chasing down the 2 Alfa Romeo drivers in 3rd, keeping pressure on Vapor Rotation, hopefully forcing him into a mistake. Vapor Rotation, though, very much looking for an attack of his own. And we have another yellow flag, and that is Knight, who has had a bit of a spin, I believe, on the hard tires, and he is having a very slow affair through the 2nd sector now. So maybe a little bit of heat into the too much heat into the hard tires for the Red Bull driver, and he sits last on the grid right now, and he's going to have a lot of work to do. But meanwhile, we will go back up to the top of the grid order, and pretty much all of the top 8 drivers, all within a second of each other, but not any drivers necessarily looking to make an overtake anytime soon. Rotation is the closest, but still a little bit too far back to make a move, and he will stay in P2 at the moment. Chapelelli looking pretty strong so for this first stint so far right now.
Yeah, so Chapelelli having that, he got that start he needed, doing everything right, and crucially does have his teammate of Rotation behind him, which can potentially allow for a little bit of teamwork to play into effect. We do know how much the Alfa Romeo drivers like to compete with one another, assert their dominance, who is the faster driver, but in a situation like this, you do like to see a little bit of teamwork, as elsewhere, your own Vasseur having to go way wide on the exit of Chapel, losing out on a few positions, falling down into 10th, and might lose out on another one to Eklund. No.
Ooh, wait, no, he might, because Sharon has a problem, and now they're going a little side by side, but the Haas cuts the door on Eklund, and Eklund will stay 11 for now, but not having a great time right now on track is Giron, because he is all over the place on that soft compound tire, which is starting to see the end of its lifespan come into eye view.
Yeah, and I thought it's a little interesting with the way these soft tires maybe starting to fall off a little earlier than I expected. I thought they could go easily 10, 11 laps, but we're starting to see here with these Division 1 drivers that tire wear may be a little bit more of an issue, potentially with the way a lot of drivers tune their setups, looking to maximize that speed and putting that tire management, that tire wear a little bit on the back burner, especially in the early stages of the race.
Isaac Kush is putting a lot of pressure on Vapor Rotation, who has just not really been able to keep totally up with his teammate. Coming through Maggins and Beckes, through Chapel, Isaac Kush is right up on the back rotation. Very little effect from the dirty air, and putting on the DRS, and he's not using too much overtake at the moment, and at the moment he'll stay behind Rotation, but you can just see the pace difference between Isaac Kush and Rotation. There's not a lot of places to make overtakes, but Isaac Kush will pounce on the opportunity if it strikes, and at the moment, Rotation is having some problems. Now Jerome Vasseur and and AJ Wuhan are having another battle, and Jerome Vasseur is back ahead of AJ Wuhan, up into 9th position. So a little battle going on right now for the 9th position here in the race, and Jerome Vasseur has caught it back up with him. AJ Wuhan now going to have some pressure from the Renault of Eklund. I want to talk about Carter as well, meanwhile. Carter's up into 12th position as he was down in plumb last at the start of this race. A fantastic start for Carter.
Yeah, and as far as for Carter, really, I mean, he really did what he had to do off the start of the race. Just, yes, he did start in last, but kept it clean, did what he had to do, and benefiting from keeping it clean through the first few laps of chaos, and a decent 12th position, and maybe looking for more. Regarding how he can, depending, on how he can handle this race. But crucially, the Red Bull of Duil.
One of Rotation's having problems. He had a little bit of a rear end step out there, and Rotation is losing a bundle of time to his teammate. He's losing all the time with Isaac Kush now right behind him, and Isaac Kush will stay behind for the moment, but Rotation has to be careful. He's starting to lose it a little bit behind his teammate, and he may get overtaken by the AlphaTauri driver, looking very much for an opportunity to strike on the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, but it's also looking equally as though Isaac Kush isn't really in much of a rush to get this move done on Rotation. As I've been riding on board with the AlphaTauri driver here and there, when it does come time to maybe make that push for the overtake, really a little bit more conservative on his ERS, just relying on the DRS to keep that gap close. I think potentially, as far as Isaac Kush is concerned, maybe wanting to just keep this a 3-car battle, not end up fighting too much with Rotation, which could allow to bring back the likes of Passassin, Ferg, and Indigo into this battle. So I think for Isaac Kush, maybe just trying to stick with the top 3, kind of build that gap between 3rd and 4th, and then push for the overtake, or just keep the pressure on Rotation at the very least and force Rotation into making a mistake himself so he doesn't have to work too hard, and maybe save up some of that ERS for when he needs to push and attack Chapelilli for the eventual lead of the race, if that time does come.
Yeah, I have to say, I think Isaac Kush maybe is finding himself in a position where he may not want it to have, because I'm sure the tire wear will be a little accelerated being that close to the back of the Alfa Romeo driver. I'm not seeing a driver who wants to overtake, but he may be forced to, given Rotation has had a few mistakes a couple times throughout the race so far. As we move towards lap number 9, and we're on lap 8 right now, Rotation is having some car problems, and that has put Isaac Kush in a position where he's almost able to make overtakes.
Yeah, but it also looks like Isaac Kush not looking to push nearly. No worries. Just looks like Isaac Kush, he's keeping up, but just not really to give that extra little push to get the overtake done to go up into 2nd. But crucially, through all that, the gap is growing. But here comes Josh too, going down the inside of V-Mark to go up into 7th. So. Yeah, you saw that there. A little bit of contact between Josh and V-Mark. Thankfully, no damage on either car. But Josh, too, does continue his solid drive in the early stint of this race. And really showing that 5-place grid penalty really won't stop him. Starting in 18th, no worries. I'll just have a decent start and work my way back up and already into 7th. And but does have a little bit of a gap to try to close up to Indigo, who's in 6th.
Isaac Kush has another opportunity to use some ERS and decides against it. So, as you said, looking to keep behind Rotation at the moment. And into the pits, so first is Isaac Kush. So even more reason not to use any ERS. Isaac Kush, the first of the pit stops here for the top drivers. Now, do the Alfa Romeos of Chapelilli and Rotation respond to that pit stop? We'll have to wait and see. I'd expect they will. Do not want to be undercut by the AlphaTauri driver. So now Chapelilli and Rotation don't battle too much, which I don't think they will, but they will. They should be going into the pit lane come next lap.
Oh, I would not be
surprised. Kush comes out in P12.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Chapelilli and Rotation cover that undercut, or at least have one of the drivers cover the undercut. Now, the question is, who is going to be the driver to do it? As they're both oh so close, the last thing you want to do is both dive into the pits at the same time and end up double stacking here with your pit stops, because that can be such a huge time loss. More so for rotation, so I think rotation is going to play by ear depending on what Schiaparelli does near the end of this lap. If Shap takes the pit stop, rotation is going to stay out, and potentially if Shap stays out, rotation might come in to cover that to cover the undercut from Izat Kush.
I would think, given Formula One logic, usually the driver ahead is the driver who gets the pit stop preferred, and there he goes, Schiaparelli into the pit lane, and he will pit, and rotation will now try to cover off Izat Kush. Now let's ride on board of Izat Kush, because this is all the big battle we want to know as he's coming through towards, I think this should be okay, because Izat Kush just came out of the exit of Chapel onto the straight. He's fastest in the second sector, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think this should be an easy set of affairs if you're Schiaparelli, who just came out of the pit lane, putting on a set of medium tires. So here comes Izat Kush towards the end of the lap. I think that Schiaparelli will stay ahead for the moment. He's at the end of the pit lane. Izat Kush coming around the start-finish line. It's going to be close to Schiaparelli. And there is the Alfa Romeo driver, though, and he is ahead of Izat Kush. So the undercut has not worked out for Izat Kush. But will it work out for Schiaparelli? Because now rotation has to make a pit stop. Josh 2 should take the lead of this British Grand Prix after the pit stop from rotation, which should be coming now on this lap.
Yeah, so that's you took the words right out of my mouth. That as much as Schiaparelli's still ahead of Izat Kush, where is rotation gonna fall into all of this? Is he's had some clean air now that he's been able to maybe push a little bit more. Rotation has, but we'll see, is it enough to put him ahead of his teammate, or at the very least slot him between the likes of Schiaparelli and Izat Kush? We will find out, but this strategy has played an absolute treat for Josh 2, who's going to find himself, after starting in 18th, he's going to be taking the lead of the race here, being able to go a little bit longer on those medium tires, and crucially does have a lot of clean air that he can just push his Williams car and maybe try to pump out a gap to the net leaders of the race.
It's not looking too good right now for rotation. He will get passed, I think, by Schiaparelli at the very least, as rotation is coming towards the end of the pit lane. There's Schiaparelli, Izat Kush behind, going to ride on board of Izat, and oh, this has been a disaster for rotation. He's been overtaken by both Izat and Schiaparelli, so rotation... I know he hasn't necessarily has this seat officially, but he might be seething a little bit. Being in P2, Schiaparelli pits first, and not only does he lose the position to Schiaparelli possibly, but he also loses it to Izat Kush. And now you may see the gloves start to fly off. Can rotation keep up with Izat Kush? But Izat Kush now looking ahead towards Schiaparelli, really his championship rival right now.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how. It's curious how this all played out with rotation in third, and I mean, Izat Kush, he's now used a lot of his overtake, either keeping up with Schiaparelli or at the very least on that on his out lap after his pits to try to build that gap and get that overtake done. But crucially, Schiaparelli has a lot of overtake, a lot of ERS, a lot of battery left compared to Izat Kush. This could maybe play into, into rotation's hands as well, given that rotation has much more battery to work with if and when that gap does close up. But now they are crucially closing up to the likes of Jamie and Feral Fury, Do-Will, a lot of drivers who they've been battling amongst themselves, but going a little bit longer on those medium tires. So we'll have to see these net 3 runners, or the net leaders of the race from the start of the race, how they're going to fare once they do catch up to this traffic. Are they maybe going to be held up a little bit more than they'd like, which could potentially play an advantage to, I'm going to go back to Josh 2, who's currently leading this race and has a lot of clean air ahead of him, and a nice little 3-second gap between himself and Eklund, who's currently in second being pressured from the likes of AJ Wuhan a little bit, who's in third on the hard tires.
That is interesting. I want to mention here, as AJ Wuhan and Du Will are the only drivers who, out of these drivers, have not made pit stops yet on the hard tires. That I expect they're probably going to go towards even maybe lap 17, lap 18 before making their pit stops. Go onto the soft compound tires. Very interesting with the hard tire runners where they're going to end up in this race. They're going to pit a little bit later than those medium tire runners will, for sure. They can. I mean, realistically speaking, the hard tires could probably go till the end of the race if you didn't have to make a pit stop. But nonetheless, we'll have to wait and see if or how that ends up for the hard tire runners. The medium tire runners with Josh 2, meanwhile, should be pitting soon, as you do not want to lose too much time to the drivers on the new set of soft tires. And we're on board of Chapellet right now. You can see that Jamian is getting so much closer in his distant mirrors. Chapellet is going to be right on the back of Jamian in just a few moments' time, about a 2.9-second gap.
Yeah, and really pumping out these flying laps is Chapellet on that fresher set of tires, at least from what I'm seeing, and crucially still has just about a full battery to play with as well for when he does catch up to some of these other drivers ahead. So he does have that ERS in his back pocket to try to force some overtakes into positions with the help of DRS, or maybe just get that extra little oomph, that extra little boost to speed if he's kind of caught in potentially a side-by-side battle, as they will be battling for positions when they do catch up. But as you were saying, Chapellet and Isaac Cush in rotation for that matter, catching up to the back of Jamian at a rate of knots. That 5-second gap already down to 2.5 seconds in a span of what's maybe 2, maximum 3 laps.
Not even. It was 3 seconds a lap ago, and it's now 2.5. So now it's 2 seconds, and he's lost. Jamian has lost almost half a second in a span of a sector. So now Chapellet really starting to close up on these drivers. Does not help the fact that Jamian is stuck in a bit of a gaggle of cars right now, trying to all make overtakes on the respective driver rivals. Du Will is having a bit of a look on Carter. Carter is having trouble on those medium compound tires, which I'm sure are starting to give up a little bit towards the end of this race. Now, we got to talk about Carter. Look where he is, 20th up to 4th. Of course, he will drop a little bit after the pit stops, but you cannot. Look at this from the Haas of ISRL, Feral Fury, who was making a pass on Jamian, who gets pushed off track, meanwhile, because of it. And that was a very daring move through Cobbs, and it worked out for Feral Fury up in the 6th position, but that only slows down Jamian, who has gone off track, and now Chapellet within a second of the Mercedes driver, and now you're going to start to see some overtakes, if not some pit stops, from the medium tire runners as they start to see the net leaders start to come into the lineup. Look at that, Feral Fury into the pit stops first of those drivers. We'll see how that works out for the Haas driver, as the rest of the drivers will soon follow.
Yeah, and that's it was a bit of a daring move from Jamian trying to go around the outside of Cops, but very difficult to get that move done. And I think just on the exit of the corner right before, Jamian just had a bit of a better exit than Feral Fury did, so Jamian went for the move, especially here around Silverstone, where you kind of just have to, lick the stamp and send it to try to maybe force some overtakes, because or else you end up stuck in these DRS trains like we're seeing. And I think when I was talking about track position, it's really benefiting Carter, because as much as Du Will is getting close to Carter to jump to this battle a little bit, with the dirty air, Du Will just can't quite get that exit he's hoping for to close that gap enough to get those overtakes done. So solid drive from Carter, knowing how important track position is, holding on to that 4th position. But now that we've got the potential net leaders of the race getting involved, this could really shake things up, especially with this battle between Carter, Du Will, Jamian, with now Chapellet in DRS range of Jamian. And there've been 2
pit stops for Eklund and Josh 2. And AJ Wuhan stays out. He's on the hard compound tire, so it makes sense that he would stay out. So does Du Will. Actually, almost all of the medium tire runners have now made pit stops in this race. So there goes Du Will up in the second, and Jamie actually has stayed out on those medium tires. So Chapelot is going to be all over the back of the Mercedes driver. I want to make a counter argument a little. Oh, there's contact between Jamie and Chapelot. And now Jamian may be under a little bit of hot water with some of the drivers here. Not a race that is really the race, given the tires, but Chapelot has made a bit of contact of Jamian. And I'm sure the Alfa Romeo driver can't be too happy having made contact with the Mercedes driver, who is probably in his opinion should just get out of the way.
But it is still fighting for position, whether you like it or not, whether you're on different strategies. You don't just give up a position because the driver is fast. So you still have to earn it. As
Side by side, and Chapelot makes it work. Past the Mercedes driver, now towards Du Will.
There you go. So Chapelot licking the stamp and sending it. And you were mentioning Jamian surprising to stay out, but crucially it was because the driver that was just 2 cars ahead, Carter, as the lead car, got that pit stop option first, and he took it. So Jamian was forced to stay out for one more lap to not double stack the Mercedes. But there you go. Now you see him take a pit stop.
I also want to mention AJ Wuhan has a gap of 8 seconds now to Chapelot. Now, I want to actually bring up the detail right here. I think that is... where's the stop? No, so AJ Wuhan has not made a pit stop, actually. So I thought he was one of the drivers to make a pit stop on the first lap. So he does have to pit one more time. But he is going to be in a very nice position towards the end of this race, being on that hard compound tire.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Having been able to build that gap, it does put him in a decent position, unlike the other hard tire runner of Du Will, who, to be fair, was able to take his 4th position right back from rotation after just about a few corners ago, practically getting eaten alive by the likes of Chapelot and Isat Kush. And even rotation kind of made it look really easy, but rotation just went a little bit too deep after the DRS straight, which allowed Du Will to take that position right back up into 4th. But it looks as though, at least for now, the pace advantage is definitely on these runners on those fresher medium tires. Chapelot even setting a purple second sector for his troubles now that he's back into clean air. So he's definitely flying on those mediums.
And rotation has gone back ahead of Du Will probably for the final time, as it was on that main straight. Du Will is going to have some trouble keeping up at least with rotation, but rotation really has just not had a great race after getting jumped in the pit stops. Now he's having battles of drivers who, realistically speaking, he should have no trouble with, but he just lost that position, as you said earlier, to Du Will after making it happen. He's finally got it back, but now he's got a 1.4 second gap to Isaac Kush. Isaac Kush, meanwhile, doesn't have a great gap either, 1.4 seconds to Efro Chapelot. AJ Wuhan, his gap now is 6.6 seconds, so 3 seconds have gone away in that gap. And I would have to say that AJ Wuhan should look at making his pit stop very, very soon onto that new set of soft tires I'm sure that he will go on, because he's going to be in a very favorable position, I believe, after this pit stop. And he's going to be the fastest driver on track easily.
Yeah, and I do think he's probably going to be taking a pit stop either near the end of this lap or the next lap, especially with the way this gap has been shrinking from sector to sector between AJ and Chapelot. So I do expect AJ to maybe take a pit stop potentially here. No, he's staying out for at least one more lap, is AJ, so looking to go a little bit longer, really get the most out of those soft tires when he does opt to go on them. But he's going to have to watch out to not stay out too long on his hard tires, or he might risk losing out more than he would be gaining by sticking with those tires for too long.
Meanwhile, AJ Wuhan stays out for now, and I'm a little shocked by this. I think he probably should have pitted now. It's another lap that Chapelot gets to gain all the time in the world on the Alfa Romeo driver, and I just never quite understand the whole strategy of just staying out as long as possible. I understand the soft tires won't be great towards the end of his race, but, you know, as you lose more and more time, your pit stop advantage becomes pretty null and void. So I don't agree with
Eklund
this.
and V-Mark just go and have a nice little battle. They went side by side through turn 5, but Eklund on those softer tires did get the move done, just had a little bit better traction on the exit. And that's Eklund up into 10th. So a nice little move from Eklund. And now, crucially, he's got his teammate ahead of him for at least a little bit of a ways ahead. But it's looking to be a pretty decent showing for the Renault drivers here in Division 1, at least so far, if I'm being completely honest here.
I will be back in just 1 second, Fall, and if you can take over with Chapelelli, I'm going to keep on board with.
Yeah, of course. So Chapelelli here coming around the final corner now. That gap is still closing between AJ Wuhan and Chapelelli. I'm seeing on track Krishna having a little bit of difficulties here as he's getting back on track, maybe losing that back end just a little bit earlier on in the race. But it is still interesting to see AJ Wuhan still staying out on those hard tires, given how quickly this gap is closing down to 4.3 seconds. And between Chapelelli and Isaac Kush as well, you can see that the gaps are up over a second, at least between Chap and Isaac. So Isaac Kush crucially outside of DRS, and might now start to feel a little bit of pressure from rotation, as rotation I think is starting to push just a tiny little bit more here in these later stages. But it is still AJ leading the way, but as mentioned, Chapelelli is closing that gap very quickly down to under 4 seconds, up to 3.9. But the question is AJ going to take a pit stop here at the end of this lap? Let's take a look here. I'm looking at the mini-map to see if he is, and it looks as though he's going to be staying out for at least one more lap, is AJ. So, once again, still looking to go extremely long on those hard tires, but through all of that, that gap is just being eaten up, just being absolutely chewed up by Chapelelli, and I'm just going to quickly check. Ix, are you back with us, or still getting something sorted out? All right, I think he's
no,
getting...
I'm back.
Oh,
I thought my mic was unmuted, but I am back. We had a bit of a emergency, but I am back. It was just kind of a little bit too difficult to hold in. That's all I'm gonna say. But Chapelelli is still in second, and you know, as I was listening on, I have to question it as well. What is AJ Wuhan thinking? Because now his tire is 20 lap old. As we expected, probably lap 20, you would probably make your pit stop. But Chapelelli, you can see now in the distance of AJ Wuhan, and I just don't quite understand this strategy call from AJ Wuhan. Losing more and more time, his pit stop advantage going out the window. And AJ Wuhan, I don't think is going to have a lot more places than he would have before had he made his pit stop a little earlier. Of course, his soft tires will be.
Josh 2 and Ferg going side by side through Maggots and Beckett's, or just about, but Josh 2 just a little bit more daring and gets the move done to go up into 7th. So, apologies for cutting you off.
Yeah,
Ix,
well,
but,
it's okay because I've probably missed about every single side-by-side battle through this race. And I'm going to have nothing to clip at the end of this one for the top moments video. So I'm going to keep on board actually with Josh too, because this is really the big battle right now. I'm sure AJ Wuhan will eventually make his pit stop. It's 21 laps now. He's been on this set of tires, and he hasn't made a pit. And he hasn't made a pit stop yet. So I don't know if Wuhan is aware of the fact he's going to get disqualified at the end of this race.
The only thing I can potentially think of for AJ, but it's a little bit of a long shot here, is maybe he's aware that his battle isn't necessarily with the top 3, but could be considering more that as much as Shap, Izat, and Rotation are closing up, it could just be that AJ's trying to stay out, looking past that to maybe come out on the quicker tires, while maybe still seeing this gap
Ooh,
grow
the
to everybody else.
side-by-side of Josh 2 and Do Will. Josh 2 makes the move up into 6th. Those soft tires are working a dream right now. Josh 2, though, has made it past one of those Do Will, who's also on 21-lap-old hard tires. Ferg is in 7th. Sorry, so I'm not. How did Ferg get in 7th? I thought it was a battle with the Red Bull. I didn't see he made 2 moves, but nonetheless, Josh 2 is now chasing down Vapor Assassin on 12-lap-old mediums. Look how much time he's gaining on that straight, and he's going to gain even more time. Possibly make a lunge for a move on the McLaren driver as the closing stages of this lap. AJ Wuhan is staying out. Again, if you go to the details, there is no pit stop for AJ Wuhan. What is going on inside that pit board? Because he's going to have, 3 laps to go towards the end of this one? Do you think he knows he hasn't made a pit stop yet? I can't fathom not knowing I didn't make a pit stop unless my standings are wrong and he has made one.
I'm taking a look, and mine are showing the same thing for AJ and Do Will, both not having taken a pit stop just yet. So it baffles me that he's staying out for this long, because I do think he's well past that point and no return to be able to make that pit stop and get those soft tires to work. The only other thing I can think of, other than that point I was making earlier that was a long shot, is maybe just hoping to get that pit stop, get on those soft tires, and, I don't know, pump out a fastest lap and just eke out that extra point. Your own Visser and VMARK going side-by-side elsewhere, but your own Visser just getting a little bit of better traction, but VMARK coming right back at the Haas driver. They might be going side-by-side through
goodness. It's contact, but he keeps it together. What a save from VMARK. I got to get back up because there's side-by-side battles. AJ Wuhan stays out. He has now 3 laps to go. There is no pit stop for AJ Wuhan. What is going on for the McLaren driver who's up into 2nd but could be disqualified near the end of this race? Now we got to go back, though, because there are battles up and down the order. VMARK had a bit of contact of Jerome Vasseur. Keeps it alive, though, is in 12th at the moment. I got look at this. Yep, it is Do Will and one of the Renaults of VER Indigo who are going side by side. But Do Will at the moment staying behind. I believe Indigo actually did make the move. I do apologize. I'm getting like the worst camera angles right now from the spectator view. I'm trying my best to keep up with everything, but it is so very difficult. Oh, and Indigo picks up a 3-second time penalty. Let's bring up the detail in terms of penalties. That's 6 seconds. Do will be moving up some positions. There's a lot of penalties to behold, and Isaac Kush does have a 6-second time penalty, meanwhile, back from AJ Wuhan. But AJ Wuhan hasn't made a pit stop yet. What is going on? He's going to get disqualified if he doesn't make a pit stop soon.
Yeah, I'm really not too sure. I mean, I keep saying this. I don't know why AJ is staying out on those hard tires. He's got to go ahead and pit this lap, right? I mean, we'll take a look.
Yes, into the pits. But where does he end up? This has been the longest strat I've ever seen on the hard tires. I said they could go till the end of the race, and I wasn't wrong because they almost did.
Here comes Assassin on Josh 2. Apologies to cut you off there, but we've got a little bit of a battle here coming around the final corners, and I think Ferg might want to get involved in this as well, as he's oh so close. Josh 2 able to hold on to that, what was P6, now up to P4, as Do Will takes his pit stop as well. But he's definitely going to fall down the order now, is that Red Bull driver, after going what I feel is a little bit too long on those hard tires.
And he's still in the pit lane. He's dropping positions. Looks like he's going to come out maybe in 11th. It's going to be Colts if Josh 2 as he just gets below him. Josh 2 up into 11th position. AJ Wuhan is going to score some points today, but I just wonder, it could have been more. I just feel like it could have been a lot more than just 12th.
Yep, I do think it could have been a little bit more. I think those tires did fall off a lot more than AJ thought. But now he's slotting behind Jamian, and it looks like Josh 2 and Passassin are still battling it out for fourth position. And I'm looking here, I don't think it'll matter all that much given the gaps, but Isat is in 2nd, but does have, I believe, 6 seconds now of time penalties. So rotation can kind of just, in a way, sit back now as we're about to start the final lap of the race, I believe,
Yep.
and reap the benefits of a possible P2 if he's just able to keep it clean. And Josh, too, as well, maybe that battling has affected him a little bit, but if he can somehow, by some miracle, close up 6 seconds, or 3 seconds, I guess I could say, or more, in the span of one lap, he might be able to see the podium as well.
I want to mention as well a good indication. A good comment from One Wing. Maybe what we are overlooking is probably AJ Wuhan was hoping maybe for a safety car to come out of some kind, slow up the pack, and then make a pit stop. Obviously, that would have been perfect, but that's a lot of hopes and dreams, and I just don't think it's worth the risk. Josh is also, meanwhile, in 4th position. I think we know who our driver of the day is going to be, and maybe driver of the week, because a performance like that coming up from 18th on the grid up into 4th, maybe even P3 if he can. If some time is lost by Isaac Kush. There is a yellow flag in the 3rd sector. I think a Ferrari has had a problem. It is Jarno who has had a spin.
Yeah, Jarno and Knight. I know they were having a little bit of a battle here for the wooden spoon. And I think maybe there might have been some contact from Knight.
Yep. I just got to say, Chapelot's about to come across the line. He's coming through the final turn, and he's going to win the British Grand Prix. A fantastic drive. Isaac Kush will drop down to 3rd on the grid. Onto the podium still, though. And, Josh 2 does drop a position because Passassin is on him. Passassin does have penalties. Josh 2 is going to gain some time, but Ferg was side by side down the line there, but Ferg has some penalties of his own. 2 Renaults of Indigo and Eklund, 7th and 8th on the grid. Jerome Vasseur is going to come around in 9th, and he's dropping down to now 9th for AJ Wuhan. So AJ Wuhan does pick up on penalties, and he does in fact get fastest lap of the race, as well as you might as well expect, because look how fast he went. But Schiaparelli wins it. He makes it a 1-2 with rotation. It's 1-2 Schiaparelli rotation. A fantastic performance for Alfa Romeo here in Tier 1. And that is your race. That really flew by. Virtually no safety car incidents.
Yeah, very clean showing here for the Division 1 drivers. I mean, you'd come to expect that given how good these drivers are, how clean these drivers know. They know how to push the boundaries without getting a little too crazy. But here, even at Silverstone, all 20 drivers finishing the race here, and it was extremely exciting. And as you said, absolutely flew by. But I wouldn't have it any other way. As there you go, Josh 2, well-deserved driver of the day. And potentially my vote for driver of the week, if I'm being completely honest here.
And there you go. A little dance, and Schiaparelli wins it. Rotation, 2nd place after the penalty from Isaac Kush. He thankfully has a little bit of a rebound, because that was not looking like a fantastic race for him. But Isaac Kush ends up on the podium in 3rd, and Schiaparelli continues to extend his gap in the championship, continues to run away with it, and hopefully secure the championship here. No Sweet Crown 19. He'll continue to fall down the order. Let's go over the grid order one more time. Schiaparelli in 1st, 2nd for rotation, 3rd for Isaac Kush. Josh 2 and 4th, rounding off the top 5 is Passassin. Ferg in 6th, 7th for Indigo, Eklund in 8th, 9th for AJ Wuhan, 10th for Jerome Vasseur, 11th for V-Mark, Farrell Fury in 12th, 13th for Jamie, and 14th for Sophion. Carter rounding off the top 15, the final driver in the points. Good for Carter, coming from 20th. 16th for Will, 17th for Nathan JB, 17, and 18th for Jarno, 19th for Knight, and 20th for Krishna. What? I thought that Nathan JB had finished in... No, what am I... No, it's AJ Wuhan. Why am I... It's all these CRL drivers, man. These CRL boys. Freaking always messing me up, which we're going to have an event with them soon, I believe. But I don't believe that's been announced, so I didn't say anything. Let's go over to the interview room, but nonetheless, having some rivalry talk going on in the comms booth. You didn't hear anything. You heard nothing. And so we're just going to get into interviews.
Yep, heard absolutely nothing. I
Nothing.
just got the invites sent out for our podium sitters, and as we're waiting for them to join in, I was looking at the podium dance. You'll probably be very happy about that. We did not have a Michael Schumacher on the podium this week.
I was just trying not to think about it. I was just trying to, have no Michael Schumachers. Thankfully, people like Shapalelli who understand that it's a tarnish on the podium to keep having the Crimson Chin on there. Why can't you have your own avatar? Shapalelli, you have won the British Grand Prix. Talk us through that race, even though it wasn't exactly the most exciting race up at the front of the grid, but nonetheless, talk us through that one.
Yeah, there's not really much to say. I was just annoyed at AJ at the end. But other than that, it was just going straight. GG's to rotation for P2. Finally, Alpha 1-2. Yeah.
It's been a long time coming, and we gotta, of course, be congratulatory as a fellow Alfa Romeo driver who didn't have a great race in Division 3. But nonetheless, a good recovery drive for the Alfa Romeo drivers who always do well in Division 1 regardless, so I don't know why I'm saying. Rotation, you finish in P2 as I get to keep on board of this beautiful red and white car. Talk us through that race. It did not do too well for you after the pit stops, but you did come back to finish in second after the penalty from Isaac Kush.
Yeah, my setup wasn't optimal. I haven't practiced at all, so I didn't expect much from this race, but qualifying in P2 after losing the rear 2 times in the old turn 1 in qualifying, I got pretty worried, but got a good lap in at least, and yeah, it wasn't as stable in the race, so I was just happy I didn't spin or crash into someone, because it was horrendous to drive.
I see. So we will definitely work on practicing interviews as well in the future. Nonetheless, is Isaac Kush in here?
Yes, Isaac Kush did jump in for the post-race interviews.
So Isaac Kush, you finished third. Think clearly about what you want to say and be nice and peaceful about it. How was your race?
Kind of a boring race in it. It was just a DRS train out until the last few laps when
I knew you was going to say DRS. It's boring.
Just broke the DRS train. Yeah. I don't know what the guys on the hards were doing, honestly. Like, I think AJ Wuhan went to lap 24 on the hards, and it's like, I don't know. I'm trying to find the right word. It's not really that smart, I guess. But I think he was hoping for a safety car, which didn't come. So tough luck for him. Do better, I guess. And then yeah, penalties just ruined my race, I guess, because I was pretty much faster than rotation the whole race. Yeah.
All right, and Fallen, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to, more to ease that and then to everybody else. When he took that, I'll be honest, it seemed like a bit of an early pit stop, Izat. Was that an attempt to possibly try? Was that part of your initial strategy, or was that just an attempt to try to undercut both of the Alfa Romeos and maybe take that lead position for yourself?
Yeah, I just wanted to undercut because I felt that mediums could last really long. So I think, and it worked out if I didn't have the penalties. So yeah, I knew mediums could last. That's it.
Well, right, that is it. That is the answer. And that has been it. Thank you so much for joining us. There's your top 3. Shapalelli wins it. Vapor Rotation in second. And Isaac Kush rounding off the podium. Shapalelli continues to extend his gap in the championship. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for, thankfully, my internet connection not dying on me. I was able to stay in the race. Finally back through a full one. And join us next week for round number 9, which is Fall Monkeys. Do you remember?
Yes, it's the ISRL Grand Prix at Suzuka International Circuit
Oh,
in Japan.
it's the Japanese Grand Prix, which I didn't really want to race in Russia, so I had my parents vote on the poll, which is why we're racing in Japan this year. I've just said it to the owner, so I might as well
live
just say
on stream.
I said Knight already knows. It's public information. We're just going to let you guys know. Mr. and Mrs. X, that's not their last names, picked Japan as the ISRL Grand Prix. Nonetheless, thank you so much for joining us for this race here today. If you enjoyed the live stream, make sure to leave a like on it and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or race. And thank you to all of our partners, IMB Raceware, Jackson Protection Agency, and IFEA for making ISRL continue to tick and talk as it does every day. My name has been ISRX. You've been joined by Fallen Monkeys in the commentary booth, and have yourselves a wonderful day.